All right, cool. Almost forgot where the camera was. Welcome back to the Cult of Personality podcast. Gonna slightly ever put up my mic. You're back with Mikeymcchoppa as your host, and today with us we have a new face. Today with us is a new artist named Dan Cooney. Welcome to the pod, my friend.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Hell yeah, bro. I'm fucking excited. I was just saying off camera. I'll say it on camera. I'm excited to interview someone who I do not know. I'm excited to interview someone I have not had on the pod before because I've just been doing these part twos, man. Like I'd be busy, I'd be working. All right. It's easy to do that. Sometimes I just want to catch up with my pals. Today we're finding out completely clean slate, new information about Dan Cooney. Dan, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Can't complain. Enjoy my weekend. How about yourself?
Man, I'm great. I got work in like a couple hours, so I'm like, fuck it, let's bang out a podcast before that.
Yeah.
You gotta be productive, bro. You gotta really like sometimes I'm a victim of like getting stuck before going to work. You have something planned for the day, so you're like, I can't do anything else until that happens?
Right, right. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's me.
Yeah.
So man, I kind of want to start it off. I know you're from like New York or you're based in the New York area. I wanted to ask like kind of like, just to get an intro, where are you from? You know? Well, I don't want to get into the meat and cheese of everything yet, but like, where are you from? What part of New York are you from? If you're from New York, if not, how'd you get here, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm from Long Island and I've always been and then like growing up, like a lot of my friends were musicians as well. So I played in a couple different bands with them, local bands. Nothing
Nice,
too major, just like practicing in basements on solid state amps. And then from there, there's a lot of trial and error. And then I got into making solo records. So
nice,
I started putting out solo records like 2018, 2019. So I've been doing that since, yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, from Long Island. Um, yeah,
nice, man. What part of Long Island are you from?
Lindenhurst.
Nice, nice.
So yeah,
So,
I used to get lessons at the music stores over there.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
So, what was your introduction again to the music before you said you started doing solo stuff?
Yeah, so back when I was in like middle and high school, a lot of my buddies I went to school with were into music as well. Um, and that kind of got me into it. I got to give them credit where it's due. They really got me into playing instruments and very influential in what I began listening to and taking inspiration from. So I did that for a couple of years.
Yeah. So, you started off with the instruments because of your friends and stuff, and then when you started doing the solo stuff, um, pretty much, how would I say? When you started doing solo stuff, what style were you going for compared to like I know now you're like in like an indie artist, that's how you like, put it in like your
Yeah.
I guess how you would label yourself. And so like how do you get from your original sound that you were going for to here? Like where's how that transformation take place?
Yeah, I love that you asked that because there's definitely subject matter there. Like I was, when I was in bands growing up, I was so adamant on it just being like instrument. Like it has to be like this, like it needs to sound like these guys and whatever. And I was very picky, and it was almost childish in a way. I didn't necessarily have an open mind like I do now. And like my friends like would try getting me into hip hop music and just different styles of music, and I was always like I don't feel inspired from it. Not that I didn't like it, but I didn't feel necessarily inspired from it at the time.
Right.
Fast forward to 2018, like I was a senior in high school, 2018. So, like that first week, I remember Mac Miller passing away, right? And I began doing the deep dive into his songs. Um, and my favorite mixtape of all time was probably Macadelic because that was like the um, the time frame where it was like, does he continue doing frat rap or does he
Right.
make the most out of hanging out with the odd future guys and doing the cool stuff like that? And I thought that was really influential for me because it was like a cool hybrid, like you can have like you can make timeless records and incorporate all these different sounds and elements to it. And I think that was a big thing that allowed me to have more of an open mind after that. And then I began after that it was Kid Cudi, ASAP Rocky, Skepta even, just all these different guys like I would just wake up. I remember watching YouTube videos on like, how to make rhyme beats in the live band or like the history of rhyme, like what's the tempo, what tempo do they use, like certain things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started, I just needed to allow myself to have more of an open mind. And then from there, like I experimented with making like hip hop records or like electronic records just to prove to myself that, maybe I can do that. 'Cause at one point I felt maybe I couldn't. And then I'm like, let me give it a shot just to prove that I can. And like, from there, like I got back more into playing the instrument, so like doing
Yeah.
that. Um,
That's
so
kind
yeah,
of cool to take that influence from, like this demographic of music because like it really is such a hybrid between I think like the instrumental, like kind of like even like older era of music, and the
yeah.
newer age technological computer-esque side of everything. So it's cool that you like mentioned
Mhm.
that amongst yourself and then all the artists you name as these influences are kind of like also in that same like scheme, like Pitchfork era, like
Yeah.
2010s coming of age shit. Yeah, bro. And so let me lower this just a little. I think it's cool that you name all these influences because I do like to ask about that. So, and we kind of beat around the bush for this one, so I'll kind of ask the main question of the podcast and we'll go from there. Pretty much kind of like talking about what you were talking about, but maybe even a little more in depth. Dan Cooney, the name, the image, the aura, and the energy. Pretty much how did it start? How do you like, come up with the name? Pretty much also what you were talking about sound wise, going into the instruments, into the indie sound, etc., etc.
Yeah. So I kind of love that because when I was first starting to put out the solo records, like I had some friends asking, like, oh, why did you use your real name or why didn't you take a sound, like, stage name or whatever? And it's funny because my guitar instructor at the time, he actually thought the opposite. He was the one who actually was really pushing for me to start doing the solo record. Um, and I was reluctant at first. But he eventually convinced me, and like, he helped me like with a lot of the demos of my first mixtape. And he was the one who was like, yeah, like, you can just use your name. It has like a nice ring to it, Dan Coon. And I think it's so funny because a lot of my friends and people I've met over the time, I've noticed a lot of the time when they're referring to me or even speaking to me, like they say my full name, Dan Coon, because it's like, I don't know, like maybe to them they also think it has like a nice ring to it or whatever the reason is.
Yeah,
I just think it's funny, because like um from that like back then when my guitar instructor told me that to like present day, it's like, dancing or dancing in the United States is funny. But yeah, I think also too as far as like the style and the different influences that come with that and curating that. I just look at what my favorite artists do. One of my first another artist I was listening to when I got into making the solo music is musician from the UK. His name is Blackboard, and he was very DIY, similar. And like the cover up to my first tape was like inspired by one of his pieces. And he was very DIY and indie, and like I would just look at what he was doing and kind of replicate that because it was almost like what we rap would do, you know. And also we were mentioning off camera we were talking about pro wrestling before. Jeff Hardy, he's a huge inspiration for me too, like as far as the painting and just a different style. And even dude, like to this day, um, whether it's like before something like this or before a show or before anything here, like I like to watch those old promos, like where he had to shake someone's hand, like he like went into the crowd, like everyone else's hand before. I just cool things like that, and it gets me going, and that plays a part in what I'm doing today.
yeah. I think it's cool that you take inspiration from things outside of music for like in that instance. I think it's cool. I fucking love wrestling.
Yeah.
I love that it can inspire into other fields. Like I always talk about the beginning of this podcast and
Well,
how wrestling podcasts were like the reason I started it and shit like that. and it's so funny, you know.
Yeah.
But
Dude, it's like the perfect art medium because you have choreography, you've got wardrobe, you've got film vignettes,
music,
storytelling, everything. Music, yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah,
music. And I feel like we've seen that more in the 2020s, with the sing-alongs and like the bigger crowds, with touring crowds and stuff. So like that's really cool.
yeah, man, it's fucking nuts, dude. It's like. It's literally crazy how often it crosses into like my other ways, like my other media and like other things I consume. Like I'll be like, oh shit, like this reminds me of this in wrestling. And it's like because it's literally the
Yeah.
perfect art form, like so balanced.
Oh yeah.
I also, what was I gonna ask? I lost my track just a little bit.
It happens to me all the
With
time, bro.
yeah, you just it like it happens too often for me to be a podcast host. But um, pretty much I wanted to ask about. Damn, I'm really losing it. It had to do with your sound. I know that you were talking about the independent and the DIY stuff.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, damn, bro. Oh, I want to talk about like, within the time of your time making solo music, if you've dropped any projects or whatever, like, or have you just been doing like singles? Have you like, what's been up? Like, what's been going on?
Yeah. So like I had mentioned, when I first started, like the first year, so 2019 and 2020, each of those years I put out a mixtape, both 9 tracks, and they were just on SoundCloud. Um, and I think that was a way for me to, you put out a shit ton of bad records to find your good one, and find
Yeah.
what works. And for me, that's what it was. Whether I realized it or not at the time, I was kind of just having fun with it. And when I started, getting better, at least I think when I was starting to get better,
Hmm.
um, I wanted to focus on those good songs and curate what I wanted to be curated. So I eventually like archived those tapes. I still have the files, and I do plan on putting them out for like an anniversary thing eventually.
Right.
But so then I archived those, and I kept the ones that I liked from each tape, and I worked on those. Um, like worked on like promoting those and getting those ones heard.
Yeah.
And from there, I got to be honest with myself. I'm still, emerging, and I'm a smaller artist, a younger artist. So I kind of stick to doing singles and EPs. Well, the most I'll do on an EP is 4 songs, right? Like my first 2 EPs were 4 songs each, and then the new one coming out, Love Me For What I Could Do, is 4 songs each as well. So
Nice.
I try to, if I want to give a little bit more, I do, but I try to be wary of like not giving too much, just the right amount.
Right. Yeah, keeping a balance. You don't want to oversaturate. I feel that.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's real. That's real as fuck, bro. I think it's cool that I think it's cool like your journey and stuff, you like a lot of people like I don't know, it's very like different than like the usual like artists in this day and age. It's like it's really cool that you keep the instrumental element of it, like that whole indie vibe and stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah.
So you talked about like that artist that you fucked with and like, oh, what would this dude do? When did you eventually
Mhm.
like start branching off more into, or do you feel like you still maybe even do that to this day? But I was gonna ask like when do you feel like you branched off more into like your own sound or like experimenting or like et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Here and there, I'll look to grab some inspiration. Um, but or like if I'm feeling like, because everyone has days where it's like, oh, this is like kind of like too much, like you're not feeling it. You need to feel inspired. Like I'll go back, to feel um more inspired and find that bug, like that's it. But I do think like I found more of like my own personal voice and what I want to say and do. And I think a lot of that just stems from what we've been saying, just the different art mediums, whether it's music, rap, TV. It's kind of like a melting pot, and you throw all of that together. And then I think from all those different things, you sort of find your own voice. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, man. What was I gonna say? With that, I wanted to ask as well, have you worked on before like because I like to just ask about like I like to do like past, present, and future with these interviews, you know, like kind of like what you had going on, what are you doing now, what do you got going on in the future. But
Hmm.
so like I also wanted to ask like in the terms of the past and things you've done. Oh my God, my cat's tweaking. In the terms of things you've done, what have you worked on outside of music or like music inclusive, like maybe videos or, you know, like live shows, like, you know, like what has been the Dan Cooney journey to this point?
Yeah, so it's cool, man. Like I started when it came to doing shows, I started naturally on, Long Island and doing, like Nostalgia Bar, Baker's Pub, Amityville, those kinds of places. And I have really good memories of like when I dropped my second EP
Hmm.
and doing the release show at at the local spots. And, just performing with my friends, it was like almost like 2 to 3 Fridays a month. And like, I'll forever cherish those moments, because it was just about community and it was just very fun. It was something for a lot of people to do on a Friday night, stay out of trouble, just go and listen to some of your friends play music. And, every show almost felt like its own party in a way. So I'll always love looking back on those. And then more recently, I began getting booked in Brooklyn and the city, and I actually did my first show in Pennsylvania um, the previous week, and that was really cool. Like I love meeting like the faces of like the PA music team
Right.
because I've noticed like there, like I feel like it's not that it isn't about the music here in New York or on Long Island especially, but in Pennsylvania, like they really are focused on like writing good songs and just like
I can
very
imagine
like
Pennsylvania. I can imagine Pennsylvania fucking with like the indie vibe, like that,
yeah.
like hella hard, like or even like that, like math, like what is it, like math rock, like you know, like
Math
American
rock,
baseball
yeah.
and like shit like that. Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it was like the best, man. Like, I'll definitely be going back soon. I had such a great time there, and everyone was so friendly and supportive. Um, and like that's super important to me. It was easily one of my favorite shows I've done. I'll
nice.
definitely be back. Yeah.
That's really cool, man. That's dope. It's cool to like find your niche, like your people, you know, like crowds are crowds, you know, it's gonna vary, varying people every time, but like once you feel that like I guess that resonation or however you would say, you know, like that frequency, everybody on the same level, it shit's dope.
Right.
Um, moving away from the past a little, moving into the present, you have a project of sorts coming out in September, right?
Yep. September 20th.
September 20th. And I want to talk about that in the sense of like what plans you got for it, how many tracks, what's the name, et cetera, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's called Love Me for Who I Could Be. It's gonna be another EP with 4 tracks. I like doing the 4 tracks, so it's gonna be
Right.
that. And I'm really happy to California came out because it's almost like the first EP I did was very well received. And then again like we're talking about honesty and you gotta be honest with yourself. The second EP was like it was okay. But for me that was more just about like having some fun. Playing the local shows and trying different things. And then this one, we're in the present now. So this one that I'm about to drop in September is really special to me. I think each track pulls its own weight. And, like I'm really excited for everyone to hear it. I worked really hard on it with Joe Stewart from Floor Break. Um, and, I'm just really happy with how it came out. And I think everyone else will enjoy it too. I think it's definitely an upgrade from the previous release. So yeah, I'm really happy about it.
How would you say this one differs from your previous releases? What sound were you going for? Or if a sound at all? Or were you kind of just vibing, you know?
Yeah, so I think it goes to what we were saying earlier as far as, like I'm more focused on curating like the indie aspects and more instruments. There's definitely that on this upcoming one. Whereas previously, it was like a hybrid. I would do some. grunge sounding songs and some more like electronic and hip hop based, almost like mixtapey. I think the second EP is very like mixtape-ish, where I was kind of just like, like why not let it fly, and try different things. And where this one is more of a direction and there's more of a story. Uh, so I think getting back to that was important for me.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think it's cool that you like pay attention to the cadence of the overall like project rather than like,
Yeah,
because I think like a lot of underground music is very like mixtape-ish in the sense of like it's people finding their sound per se, or like people just experimenting with their sound. So it's always
right.
like a different vibe every track or whatever. So it's cool. Um, what else? With that, I would also want to ask like how does this project not only differ from your previous like releases, but like how does it differ from like the beginning of Dan Cooney in the sense of like how far have you come in your entirety, you know?
Yeah. Um, I think so. To answer the first part of that, the first two EPs were Long Island based, right? Long Island doesn't love you part one and Long Island doesn't love you part two. And that for me was just, a very anti-hero thing to sort of like prove a lot of the people that I was around, like prove them wrong. Essentially, a lot of people, gave me heat for trying to do music and do certain things
Yeah.
when I was younger. So like for me, that was kind of just like a screw you to them. Um, and then I wanted to just try something different with this because I'm doing more shows in the city and I wanted to try to, and I feel like, that was what I wanted to say in that Long Island doesn't love you era. Like I said everything I needed to, like
Mm.
that was like a closer kind of thing for me. So now it's time to, tell the next story, um, which I'm excited about. And as far as it differing from when I first started, um, I think it's kind of like what you mentioned before, where it's like people trying to find their sound, right? Like when I was first starting, like every song was different because I had so many different influences. There was grime, there was indie rock, there's all these different things. Um, right now, it's like I know what I want to
Yeah.
tell. Um, and now I think it's focused on more of that storytelling and like, what does it mean? Like my friend Jordan and I, we love like painting, talking about different paintings. He always tells me like, this is cool and all. Like, what does it mean to paint that? So like, I think it's the same thing with music. What does it mean to strum this chord, or what does it mean to say this lyric? So, yeah.
Yeah, adding the depth and direction to music, you know? That's
Mhm.
cool. Like taking yourself even more serious. Like I fuck with it. I fuck with the whole vibe.
Yeah.
Um, in the sense of like kind of the future is in the sense of like shows because you talk about Pennsylvania, you also talk about being Long Island based and like when it comes to referring to the beginning of your journey. So like where else would you hope to like branch out into and play like either within the present or within like the future, you know?
Yeah. So I'm looking next. I want to do Connecticut. I've been
Okay.
looking into that. A little easier said than done, but I am trying to get my feet wet in Connecticut, New Jersey as well. And I eventually want to do California, do LA. I have a couple buddies there for music and for acting. So it would be great to see them. And it would also be cool, to tap in with their team, their music team, because I do remember, if I remember correctly, like in like this local shows I was telling you about in like 2022, 2023, um, we had like the California, I think it was San Diego, I could be wrong, but there's a California music scene, like all those guys came to do a show here on Long Island with us. And they were like some of the nicest people. Like they had their own magazine and it was really cool. Like I would love to catch back up with those guys, do something more. But yeah, definitely all those different spots, you gotta kind of like I said, get your feet wet a bit before you jump right in. But I think it's definitely doable. A year ago, I didn't think I'd be doing, pulling up solo to Pennsylvania, being a show there, and it happened. So I got tried to, I like having goals, and I'm a guy I feel who like, get from A to B. So like I do. if I want to do something, like I'll try really hard to get it done. Um, but we'll see what happens. But
Hell yeah, bro. I think I think that's so dope. I think it's cool that you're like tapped in with like not only are you tapped in like with people from these different places and stuff like that, but like you're like you have a plan. I think it's cool, You're kind of just like, yeah, like, I'm here now. I want to do this and then California. I'm like, hell yeah, bro.
yeah,
Overall, like the plan is to expand and grow. And I think that's very
yeah,
important.
yeah. 'Cause it's easy to, and I'm guilty of it too. It's easy to get caught up like being in a bubble, right, or in an echo chamber. I like as fun as those local shows were, like if we continue to just play to the same crowd, like where's the growth? You know what I mean? Like there's got to be like what's next? What's the next step?
Right.
Um, where I went to school, it was a great school. Very grateful for all the connections and friends I made there. But it's a smaller campus, and again, it's like it's a performing arts music school. So like when you're playing to those same people every day and just catering to them, like there's a whole environment outside of that. So like you
Yeah.
want to be able to explore that and not get caught up um in just catering to the same people and building an ego. Because you can do like the main event there, but once you step out of that building, like, you know,
Nobody.
yeah, I do. I wanted to say it without saying it, but yeah, like basically nobody.
Yeah. Nah, man, 100%. So like 100%, it's definitely great to get well versed in different areas,
Hmm.
I think that's sick, bro. I think it's cool, and I think you're gonna do it. What else did I want to say?
Thank you. Now I appreciate that.
In the sense of, talking about other people and like other artists and stuff like that, do you plan to, is there any on the current project, any like collaborations of sorts?
Um, I think mostly like just kind of doing collaborations with like my other music friends as far as like shows. We actually just did with my friend's band. Their band is kind of like on a hiatus right now. They're working things out, kind of reconstructing. But I did a show with them recently, and we did a cover of Title Fight, like a ritual by Title Fight, and
Nice.
that's one I would always do in my set, but it was always on an acoustic. But we had like the full band for this. I got up on stage and did it with them, and it was really cool, man. It reminded me how fun it is to play in full band. So it was something I had shied away from for a while. Um, but like it was cool to get back into that, definitely.
Oh yeah, bro. Um, have you ever had like any like what would I say? Like music schooling or like anything like that in your youth, or you kind of just picked up the instruments just on your own?
Yes, like I had mentioned, when I was younger, like middle school, when I first started playing guitar, I went to the music and arts school and I got lessons there. And my guitar teacher was awesome, dude. Like he put me even just beyond like the lessons, he put me on to the coolest music. Like he's the reason I got into title fight. He's the reason I got into Turnstile, the Stone Roses, all these different songs. Like um, it's so awesome. Like I do miss those lessons, and I just looking back on that time, and yeah, yeah. And then I when I first went to college, like my first major was the music program, and it was okay. Like I'm definitely happy I switched to business, um, just for my sake. But that's not a dig on like the music program, but it just wasn't for me personally because it was very, you got to read like the sheet music and do all these different things. And for people who are in that program and deserve to be in that program, that's great for them. For me personally, it felt like I was taking it every week. You know, I was kind of just doing it to get it done. And I was like, man, like I can't really drop like all this money at the school to take it every week.
Right.
Like I wanted to actually, you know, dive into something where it's like, no, what is this? Or tell me more, you know? So like, I'm happy I switched to business, but yeah, as far as like school, like music school and like my experience. So
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Something popped in my head. I was like, I feel like this kid like, cause I don't know. It takes skill to like fucking play in bands and like all the instrument shit, especially from a young age. So I'm like, either you're a fucking prodigy or you went to some sort of school.
right.
Uh, cause I swear to God, bro, like I'd be thinking about it, like, damn, like like to play with a band, like be on timing and like tempo and stuff like that. Like it's work, man.
It's a lot of work. And again, I think that's why I had like a long break from just playing in those bands because it is a lot of work. And you know, it can be and that's why like I give like all like the local Long Island bands, like I give them all the credit in the world because like they make it seem so easy. Um, I'll admit like when I was practicing for that show with my friend's band, like, like there were a couple times in the rehearsal where I couldn't keep up with them, and I'm like, man, like this is tough. But we made it work eventually. But yeah, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
easier. They make it look easy. They make it look simple.
I wanted to ask as well because you're like, oh, it's not often that I perform with a full live band, or like, I realized how fun it was. And so, when you are performing live, is it just you like in your guitar? Is it you and like just one other person? Is it like, how's that usually
Yeah,
go?
more recently, the new stuff I've been putting out is me and my guitar. Um, and other times it was uh, trap.
Mm,
So, it was like very like my songs Casper, Wendy, said that back against it, but those are all like hip hop.
yeah,
Um, so it's me and like I'm a big fan of Book of Faith Strings Eternal, and when he performs, he puts his hand behind his back like that. Like I would be on stage, like my hand behind my back, doing that thing. Because I just thought he was, he's another big inspiration of mine with the Faith. So I would do that. But I think even him now, he's doing more of the guitar stuff recently too. I think he's got a folk album coming out. So.
yeah, man, that's dope. I fuck with Wicked Phase. I haven't like really followed his stuff in a minute, but
Mhm.
that's cool, bro.
Yeah, he's great, dude. He's awesome. But yeah, so like previously it was me and tracks, and then I would some here and there do the guitar. But now I'm kind of like just doing the guitar consistently. So,
Yeah, bro, nice, yeah. I see it especially like on your IG and stuff, like that's why I was like asking. I'm like, you don't be with the full band. What you just be doing?
yeah, but I think that's
Gangster.
cool too. It's more of like a vulnerable, like acoustic vulnerability, right? There's more of a
There's like more of an intimacy there.
intimate set. Yeah, no, I love that you just said that. You took the word took the word right out of my mouth. Here, intimate sets. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool, dude. What else do I want to ask? Asked about videos, asked about shows, asked about the project. Um, I guess we'll kind of move towards the future-ish in the sense of like beyond this project, what do you see yourself working on? Are you dropping like any singles off this project before you drop it, or is it kind of just like a dropping it all at once? Things like that, kind of just what you're working on in the future.
Yeah. So it's funny, like this rollout for the EP has kind of been like a do it as I go sort of thing. And it's crazy because it's just been such a roller coaster of a timeline from when I put out the first single for it
Yeah.
to now. The first single off this is a song called This Feeling, and it came out last year. And dude, when I put that out, I had no intentions of doing another EP at that time. I didn't know what I was going to end up doing. And just from there, just from so many different experiences and feelings, and it got us to where we are right now. So I've kind of been just curating it as I go, which is really crazy. Because this 1 year alone has felt like 10 years. So,
Yeah, hella progress, man, I bet.
but as far as like future things, I imagine I'll do more music. Um, And again, I'm super goal oriented, I feel. So I eventually, some goals I have for me, like I want to eventually maybe do like TV or movies. I think that would be something really cool, playing different characters. Just something that cross off the bucket list, just do it. And I think it would be a lot of fun. I have a lot of friends like that I've sat with recently, and we just have fun like writing scripts, doing different things. And I would love to do it. Maybe even like a reality show, the YouTube show where it's kind of just like showcasing what I, behind the scenes, before shows and studio sessions and just hanging out with my friends. I think like almost home video kind of thing.
Yeah, like
I think that would be
documentary
really
kind of
cool.
vibe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I would love to do something like that. Um, Again, it's hard to get people involved, and it's always like me kind of holding the tripod and trying to do things. But I think it's definitely something. There's something there that I could do in the future as well too.
Oh yeah. I think it's cool that like your plan or like what you would like to do is just expand into other fields of media. I think it's really cool and I think it's really essential to break out of the bubble that is only whatever thing people like. You know, people do clothes, people do music, and it's like it's cool to do that, but it's even cooler to like cross those worlds and like include it in somewhere else, you know? Um,
Yeah, definitely, man. I just think like it's cool just to be able to look back when you're older and say that you did all these things, and like, like again, I mentioned before, like a year ago, I didn't think I would do a show in PA. Or more recently, I had actually modeled for a clothing company in the UK.
wow.
And that's all just from being like, screw it, why not just reach out and see what comes from it, you
Right.
know? I feel like people don't do that enough,
Take
where
the
it's just like
chance.
you never know. I'll give you an example, right? We were talking about wrestling before. Um, when I put out the first EP, I had a song on there. It's called Back Against It. I had mentioned it previously, but I thought it would work really well in like a Darby Allin like vignette or promo or whatever. I emailed his agent and said, "Hey, like you don't know who I am, but you think like you might be interested in using this, like if Darby wants to use this in a promo or whatever." I'm just like, shit, like whatever, man. Like he might see it, he might not.
No, yeah, definitely. Like
And
that's dope.
yeah, and he actually got back to me. He was like, I would need to hear the song and present it to him. So I said, okay. I sent the audio file. Nothing came from it, but it was just cool. Like the dude got back to me, and like that
100%.
alone was like that's really awesome. Like I marked out after that. I'm like, well, I'm set. Like, I was able to communicate, and whether they've used it or not, I just thought that was really cool, and like I was proud of myself for taking the initiative and doing it. And that goes back to what we were just saying, where it's like, yeah, you never know who you're gonna hear back from or what comes from it.
Yeah, dude, you gotta like take the chance. And that's such a big important thing for like I think like people to hear, not even only artists or like creators, but just people in general. But
Mhm.
like life is unfortunately all about putting yourself out there and exerting yourself. So like this world's like naturally built against introverts. However, that's just what it is. Like honestly, like some of my greatest interviews that I've like whether like greatest like either I think they're the greatest or greatest like they're really well received by others because that differs. You know, it's
Right.
like those have all been from like just taking the chance, you know, like you know what? I don't think I'm even gonna get this interview, but like let me just send the message anyway, you know, or like that's so cool
Yeah.
that like it's so cool that you even took the chance and that you heard back from his manager. That
Mhm.
shit's dope. I want to ask who's your favorite wrestler?
I have my own personal Mount Rushmore, right?
Okay.
And it's just, again, it's subjective. It's not who I think is the greatest. It's just like my personal favorite, right?
Right, right.
Uh, Jeff Hardy, Jericho, RVD, and originally it used to be Punk on there too. I just feel more recently I don't like what had happened. And again, super subjective. I'm not a fan of what happened at All In and the fallout of that. There's a lot of people we can blame, but I do think it's just like, it was a company I got super behind, and he kind of came in and really made momentum, and then went back to the company he talked so crazy about, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and again, people can think whatever they want about it. That's just my take. Um,
So who takes Punk's place in your Rushmore?
yeah, I was just thinking that. Who are we gonna put there? I want to say Hmm. Paul London. How about that? Paul London.
Paul
I
London.
think he's very underrated and like the way he would move.
That's valid as fuck.
Yeah, I'll put Paul London on there.
That's super valid. Honestly, dude, that's a pretty good Mount Rushmore. RVD, Paul London, fucking who were the first two you said? Jericho
Jericho and Hardy.
and Hardy. Yeah, that's gangster.
Dude, I just think the way Jericho, I used to study the hell out of his interviews, promos, because he's just such a brilliant mind, you know.
Bro,
And
yeah.
I think he's a genius. And just listening to how he gets people over and like the way, he's very figurative in how he talks too, and that's something I really admire.
Also, how many times he's reinvented himself in his career as well.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's insane. And then I put RVD on there because I actually went to a wrestling school for like a couple months last year.
Yeah,
And again, they make it look so easy. I had to do all these different roles, and it's a lot. I can admit, like I didn't get the roles down properly. I think it was a lot of work. So then it made me appreciate RVD that much more. He's just such an athletic freak. Like all
bro's
the
a
different
professional
roles and
roller.
what. Yeah, and like dude, it just blew me away watching it back. Like I kind of appreciated it and him more after the fact, just seeing like how much he can actually do. So I had to put him, you know.
Oh yeah. Nah, that's go that's goated. I fuck with that. Honestly, damn. I'm thinking about my Mount Rushmore and like my last spot is like up two, like it's between two. Cause I'm like, it's Pillman,
Ah,
senior,
okay, right.
Eddie Guerrero.
Mm,
I fuck with my boy CM Punk.
okay.
And the last one's between it's gonna be Bret Hart, but it was between Bret and Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I was thinking Brett before because when I was at that school, they just drill into you Bret Hart matches, Bret Hart matches, Bret Hart matches. They want he's like the blueprint as
The
far as
excellence of execution.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Dude, my favorites are probably like him versus Austin, whether it was Survivor Series '96 or Mania. Just they
Hart
they
versus
work really
Austin.
well together.
Yeah, that
So
one's gangster. They started off opposite roles, ended off with
and
Austin
they
being
did
the
the double
face and
turn. Yeah,
Hart being the heel.
I love it.
And also like the ending for Stone Cold passing out so he didn't look weak, like in his momentum of losing. Like
Yeah, I
that shit
think
was
that's what they plan to do. If Punk had stayed, I think that's what they were gonna do with him and Ricky Stark. I think it's because they subbed him out with Danielson. I think
yeah.
that now, if it was originally Starks and Punk, I think they would have done like a double turn kind of thing. I think that would have been really cool.
I'm
But
still waiting for a Punk heel turn. I think it's been too long overdue.
I think it'll happen before he hangs it up, maybe just one time. It'll be
100%.
different from the way he used to be because he's older now. But I think it'll be cool. I really wish we get you start, before he left AEW. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm scared though, because the Cena heel run went so horrible.
yeah, I don't think it's his fault though. You know what I mean? I think there
No,
was
it was
like a lot
definitely
of
shitty writing and like inconsistent planning and like all
and
that.
Dwayne, yep.
I'm gonna just make the Cult of Personality podcast into a wrestling podcast. Let's just ditch
Yeah.
the music and I'm gonna just start talking graps. Like that's it, bro. That's
That
where
would
the
be
money
sweet,
is.
man. Yeah, real graps.
Yeah, bro. Dan Cooney, my co-host, we're here.
Let's do it.
Yo, bro. What was I gonna say? Yeah, bro, this shit is fucking nuts. I think wrestling's in a weird spot right now, but you have a valid Mount Rushmore. I fuck with it.
Appreciate it.
To move forward and probably move towards the wrap up of sorts of the podcast. Before we do wrap it up, is there anything you want to talk about that I may have missed out on? Because, I'm not the perfect host. There's plenty of things I miss.
Um, I think I just want to say, thank you for having me on here, and to everyone who will be listening, thank you for tuning in. And the EP Love Me for Who I Could Be is out September 20th. You can head over to my Instagram bio to pre-save it. And I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing the song. And then I just want to say thank you, everyone, and thank you for being such an awesome host and taking the time to sit with me today and let me
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Of course. I love yapping, and all the links and all that important stuff will be in the description below as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fucking dope, man. It's dope to like to meet you and to have you on the platform. Like you're really cool, and it was really dope to like learn about you and what you're doing. Because now, like from here on out, now I follow you for the rest of your journey, and I see what you do as an artist, and I'm like, hell yeah, damn
Yeah,
fucking Cooney.
of
What was I gonna
course.
say though? So with the wrap up of the pod, pretty much like it's kind of like the same with everybody. I pretty much ask you, what do you got going on next day, week, month, year, fucking decade, century, millennium or so. It doesn't have to be music related. It could be what you're having for breakfast tomorrow, for real.
No,
Whatever
I
you
mean,
got.
I'm seeing Oasis tomorrow
Oh
at Life
shit,
Stadium, so that's gonna be really fun. Man. Yeah, oh yeah,
that's
I
dope.
can't wait for it. I used to listen. That's another. I think I mentioned them earlier. Maybe I did. Like I used to listen to Oasis like all the time, when I was in high school, and it's really important to me. You know, that they're reunited and I get to see them. Uh,
Yeah, dude, that's
I
sick.
know there's a younger me who thinks they're the coolest thing in the world. So I'm excited for tomorrow. And tonight I'm seeing some friends at home from school. So I'm gonna catch up with them. It'll be good to see them. It's a nice weekend, nice Labor Day weekend. So
Nice.
make the most of it.
Hell yeah, bro. That's dope, man. Oasis, man.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. It's just gonna be a whole packed room.
Oh yeah.
I've
Yeah.
Everybody's been seeing older bands recently. I've had friends go see MCR, Cage the Elephant or whatever. Fucking mad people went to go see System of a Down the other night in New York.
Mm.
Like apparently I didn't know that like everybody was coming on a fucking retirement tour or something. Like shit,
It's cool, man. It's cool to see it.
it's dope
There's
as
a lot of
fuck.
great legacy acts and things to do. So cool.
Hell yeah, bro. Yeah, man. Thank you again for coming on and giving us like the last hour of your time. It's been really cool to like hear about what you got going on. And I'm excited for the project you got coming out. I'm excited to see just what you do in general. And I'm always happy to meet a fellow wrestling fan. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's always a great time.
Definitely, yeah, it's cool, man. I think that's the coolest thing about those, when you go to those wrestling shows and like I was at TNA's anniversary recently, and it's like everyone's there for the same thing, and everyone's like talking and getting along. It's a really cool community. When you
Yeah,
take the internet
it's really
aspect of
community
it,
oriented too.
yeah, yeah. When
Hell
you
yeah.
take away like the internet trolls and everything, you're kind of just there enjoying it. It's really fun.
Yeah, bro. I honestly like I haven't been to like a little indie event or anything in like so long. Like I really miss those like the smaller wrestling
Yeah,
events.
Creative Pro. I actually saw Taboo at a Creative Pro. So like 2023, it was
Yeah,
really cool.
that's dope, bro. Hell yeah. All right, man. Now let me wrap it up. It goes a
Yeah.
little like this. This was the Cult of Personality podcast hosted by yours truly, Mikeymcchoppa. With me today was Dan Cooney. We had a great conversation, talked about some cool stuff. Links in the description and look out for that EP coming out. By the time this comes out, what's today? Sunday?
Uh, Sunday, August 31st.
This shit's gonna probably come out like September 6th, I think. So check
Cool.
it out in like 14 days, 2 weeks, this project will come out. So check it out. Keep a lookout.
Cool.
Peace, love, and hair grease. Free Palestine. Fuck ICE. What else do we say on here? Um, yeah, man, we'll see you next week, maybe, maybe not, because I'm a very inconsistent uploader. And yeah, man. Peace and love.
I don't. Thank you, man.